So I've been spending the day today working on a Tech Wave video for tomorrow that I'm pretty excited about. Hopefully you guys will check it out. It's actually all about the original PlayStation back in the 90s, and it came out pretty good. I think you guys are going to like it, hopefully. So make sure you stop by and check that one out. And of course, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you guys hit the like button on that. So for some weird reason, I don't know why this happened, but it kind of opens the door for a few things, at least some speculation and kind of thinking beyond just NES games that we had available to us back in the 80s and 90s. Nintendo put up upcoming titles on the website. Now, I don't know if we're pretty much beyond like them just announcing it on Twitter and they'll just update this page as they go along. We'll get a trailer and everything like usual on YouTube. I don't know if we're kind of beyond the hype point for NES games when they get announced. I feel like we are. I feel like that was a while ago for a lot of people based on some of the comments on Twitter and stuff. I think we're beyond the whole what are the NES games going to be this month. I think a lot of people hope that randomly Nintendo will say, here's Super Nintendo games, right? I think that's kind of what we're at right now. But this is the page for the NES games that they described to everyone for what's available. And they really haven't removed anything, so that's good. We, of course, get the random special edition game, right? That just randomly happens. And then, for some reason, upcoming titles, they post 3 different ones, okay? And at first glance, I said, okay, looks cool, but one of these is very interesting. Now, Donkey Kong Jr. and Clu Clu Land are fine, but Versus Excitebike is the one that is very, very interesting here, and I'm going to tell you why. Versus Excitebike was a game that was available in arcades and on the Famicom disc unit, I believe. So it wasn't ever available in the US or outside of Japan, really, until they put it on the Virtual Console kind of for Wii U. And that's how they moved that over. It reminds me very much so of Earthbound Beginnings, for example. When that became available, that was pretty cool. Or, of course, in Japan, they moved stuff like Mother 3, for example, over, but that was more for a Game Boy Advanced Virtual Console. But Versus Excitebike, I guess by a lot of people, would be considered a Virtual Console game because it was never actually an NES game. And that's the part about this whole situation that is very interesting, since we are, of course, expecting NES games every month. Okay, what's the next NES game? What were the next bunch? But there are 3 games here, and one of them is not necessarily an NES game. So what does this mean? Well, it could mean that Nintendo decided to grab Versus Excitebike just to be different for the US. Like, I haven't seen what they're getting in Japan yet. I've just seen this list that they have put up. There's a good chance that we'll get a trailer for that at some point. But to see Versus Excitebike is cool because that means that now we start to realize something like Earthbound Beginnings is very possible to be added. And that, I think, while not being the biggest deal ever, I think for a lot of people, that would be really cool to see them take Earthbound Beginnings and move it over to the NES library, the NES catalog. And basically what this tells me is it doesn't have to be an NES game that was only ever released in the US. If it's coming to the to the US, this NES application. It could be something that was only released in Japan, and that's something I would like to see, but I know there's things like translating involved, localizing and stuff. There were some cool NES games that I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about that could have made the jump and just brought over, right? We've seen some stuff, just get announced and brought over with Famicom games in Japan for Japan service. And you can still technically download them, but of course it's in Japanese, and unless you know the language, you're going to have a hard time playing it, especially if it's an RPG. So seeing Versus Excitebike gets me happy and excited because there is a chance that something bigger could follow. Now, Versus Excitebike is at least interesting, and that'll be fun to see show up, but I, like many right now, are looking to the future. So you're going to let me know what you think about Versus Excitebike showing up here and what you would want to see show up on the NES application that I guess would still fall in line with NES games for now. It gets really exciting if we get to a point where Super Nintendo games show up because there is a mess of Super Famicom games that never made it out of Japan. And then you also have things that were on like the Satellaview, right? You start getting stuff like that over, and you're going to get a lot of people subscribing because they've never played that stuff. So I think it goes just beyond this. If we ever get to the point where N64 games show up, could they do some crazy stuff and grab some N64 games that also never came over? Maybe they even dive into the N64 DD and get like the F-Zero expansion. You can see kind of how we're already moving just because of versus Excitebike, but it's still really cool to think about that. And it's fun to consider the future and look forward there, because I do think this is a service that Nintendo is going to continue building on, and the best way to do that is give us stuff we've never had before. And I think that's, at least for now, a happy medium, right? Just for now. Give us stuff that we've never really had before, outside of, I guess, the Virtual Console and the Wii U. But I'm talking about, like, NES games and stuff, because while I know people like the Wii U, not a lot of people played it or bought it. So to have something like this is pretty cool. But let me know what you guys think about this down below, and where we could go from here, and would Earthbound Beginnings being added, would that take the sting, a little less sting out of it for when they announce more NES games and not Super Nintendo games? Thanks guys for watching. Make sure you like the video again if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you later on tonight. We're gonna have Spawncast 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're gonna have some fun, so I'll see you guys then.